Everybody. I think we may as well kickstart now. So just want to say morning to everybody. You're all very welcome to the fourth webinar of the Local Authority Points of Contact and the Green Club's GAA programme. So my name is Jamie Nolan and I'm joined here this morning by my colleague from the Eastern Midlands, Caro Thomas Rooney. As some of you may have heard, Paul Regan, who would have previously been involved in the GA Green Clubs on the Carrow side of things, has recently moved on. So I'll be taking over from Paul when it comes to the Carrow end of things. So moving on just to today's agenda. So we have a number of speakers from the GA who will be providing updates on phase 3 of the programme. So they will be discussing the list of successful GA clubs in phase 3 of the programme. They'll also be providing an update on the progress of getting county board reps in each of the counties around the country, and also touching just on the next steps of phase 3. What we'll do then is move on to the Q&A part of the webinar. So just like in the other webinars, we'll be recording presentations. We'll also be recording any questions that come in during the presentations, or those of you that are happy to answer any of the questions or answer any questions or give questions as part of the recording. Then we'll stop the recording and answer any of the remaining questions that come in. So just what I'll do now is briefly introduce our three speakers. So firstly, we have Pádraig Fallon. So Pádraig is the chair of the Green Club Steering Committee. I also have Jimmy Darcy here. Jimmy is the Youth Leadership and Sustainability Manager for the GA Green Clubs. And finally, we have Mida Nisulawan. So Mida is the Sustainability Advisor for the GA Green Clubs programme. So what I'll do now is just hand you over to Pádraig, who is going to just say a few words, and then we move on to the presentations then. So over to you there, Pádraig.
Thank you, Jamie. Good morning to everybody, and really appreciate you joining this webinar. So I am from the Clonagale Club in Dundalk, County Louth, and 5 years ago we saw the benefit of contacting our local authorities when we had problems in our GA club. Instinctively, when we realised we had massive problems, we reached out to Pádraig O'Hora, Director of Engineering, I believe, in Louth County Council. It was transformative in that he gave us great hope and direction and led to implementing a very successful retrofit project. That great support from in Louth has continued today with Fiona Lennon and Tracy Fitzpatrick and Rory Sheehan. They continue to support our GA club. So I guess my point here is this: having a point of contact at local authority levels for our clubs, our volunteers who don't work challenges that they're going to face on sustainability every day. Being able to reach out and get guidance and comfort is going to be really rewarding. So it's important for us, and I really appreciate your support and that of your managers for the Green Clubs to date and going forward. So back over to you, Jamie.
Perfect. Thanks a million for that, Pádraig. So what we'll do now is move over to Jimmy Darcy and Mida Nisulawan, who are going to just give the brief updates in terms of phase 3 of the programme. So over to you there, Jimmy, if you want to share your presentation.
Thank you very much, Jamie, and thanks to Pádraig there for his opening address. I just reinforce our gratitude for your time here today. The presentation that we're going to deliver is one that we have developed as a resource for you, and we'll be sharing with you after the webinar. So some of it may include elements that you're familiar with, and we've included them anyway, so do bear with us. In a similar vein, I am going to play the 1-minute promo video that many of you will have seen previously as well, and we will, throughout the presentation, be providing an update on phase 3 as Jamie has outlined, and we also have eventually a consolidated of clubs that have engaged with us between phase 1, phase 2 and phase 3 of the Green Club programme that we will be able to share with you. and we also have at this point a point of contact in all of our GAA county boards. For those of you who've been looking for that point of contact in your jurisdiction, I'm sure you'll be glad to hear that. So just bear with me as I share my screen, and throughout this presentation, myself and Mida will take over at different points depending on the slide. So hopefully this plays okay for you.
I think sometimes people are overwhelmed by climate change and they don't know what to do. So I think when they get the opportunity to make a difference within their local community, they just grab it with both hands.
The key number for me was our carbon emissions. I have no doubt that there is improvements to be made in every club.
There are days when I cycle out of work and go straight to training, lead by example.
This is something small that we can do, and then you can build from there.
Playing for the Gaelic and the rugby team is good as well, but do you feel a community when you're giving back to the club by doing stuff like this? Definitely do it, yeah.
Our society as a whole, the environment, but also it allows us to educate our younger members, and our younger members are going to be the ones that are going to drive this club and this community for years to come.
So again, I'm not sure if we're going to wait for questions. I think, Jamie, somebody has their hand up. I presume we'll wait till the end.
Yeah, if we can wait till the presentations are over, then we can start the questions.
Okay, so the Green Club programme, as you'll be aware, I'm sure, is a club-based programme. We've developed the resources across 5 thematic areas, specifically with the GAA or LGFA or Camogie club context in mind. It's designed to encourage action. We don't prescribe actions to clubs. They have to make an assessment of where they are and what's important for them, and use the resources like the toolkit, which is available on our learning.gaa.ie platform, to guide their actions, as well as through you as a local authority based resource and the now in place GAA County Board volunteer. It's a partnership programme at heart, and the memorandum of understanding that we signed with the County and City Management Association back in 2020 manifested itself in this programme, and we have been delighted with the support of the officers from the Climate Action regional offices as we've steered this programme to its current status, which we're just at the beginning of phase 3. Any of the technical guidance that's incorporated into the toolkit has come from our expert partners, and the seed funding the limited seed funding that we can provide for clubs in the formal programme has been provided by the Department of the Environment, Climate and Communications. So what we're terming the recognition programme is the programme that clubs apply to us centrally here to be a part of. So I know in some cases some of you may have been contacted by clubs trying to join the programme. Apologies if that was the case. They needed to apply directly to us using our Green Club portal. Many clubs did, and we've accepted over 200 new clubs into phase 3, bringing our total number of clubs who've been involved in the recognition programme across phase 1, 2 and 3 to almost 400. And that's the list I'll be able to share with you later today for each of your jurisdictions. That list will also give an indication of the level of engagement we've had with those clubs, and hopefully that might inform how you might contact them. Some, as is the case with any programme, have been very engaged, while some made an initial effort to engage and maybe didn't have the volunteer capacity to keep going, and that's something we're very conscious of at Central Council level of the GAA here in Croke Park. What we do throughout the formal recognition programme, which will continue now from April 2025 through to November 2026 is provide a series of online supports. We'll run webinars with those clubs around each of the teams and around different milestones as they journey through the programme. We'll look at those milestones in a moment. Later this year and early next year, we'll organise in-person face-to-face gatherings at provincial level, and we found during phase 2 that those worked really well, and if appropriate, we'll definitely share with you when those are on, and it may be appropriate for you to attend those also. We provide all of our clubs with a communications pack and a banner and signage, and you'll see an image there from Buffers Alley in Wexford with their GAA Green Club pitch side banner hanging off the fence there outside the clubhouse. Clubs have to meet a minimum threshold of implementing and reporting on 2 actions from across the suite of actions that's available in the toolkit, or they may come up with a bespoke action that we haven't a resource for. But once they report on 2 core actions, by November 2026, we'll be able to recognise them officially as a GAA Green Club. The set of milestones that we recommend clubs follow is there on the screen. So the ones particularly in green are where we're at with phase 3 now. So we'd be supporting clubs to not only identify a green club officer, but to have more than one person in the club committed to driving this agenda forward, so all of the workload doesn't fall on one person. We conducted an orientation event on the 22nd of March, and many of the clubs in phase 3 attended that, and we'll be hosting a webinar for those that weren't able to make that in the next couple of weeks, and that will count as the training requirement for participation. We'll be asking all clubs to use the club and community mapping resources in the toolkit to identify their strengths and weaknesses within the club, but also to engage the broader community in a consultation around what might be the most appropriate actions for the club to take as part of the completion of their Green Club programme requirements. There's auditing tools in the toolkit, allows them to benchmark where they're at against each of the different thematic areas. There's resources to identify what actions they might take and action planning templates. And then we ask them to communicate that to their membership and to the broader community, review and report on our Green Club portal before being recognised as an official Green Club, as I say, next, November 12 months. The toolkit itself is available to all clubs. So not only those clubs within the recognition programme, the formal Green Club programme, but any club or anybody for that matter that wants to go to learning.gaa.ie/Green Club can find the toolkit and use it to inform their actions. It's designed and structured in a specific way. There's how-to introductions for each of the thematic areas, and there's a section for each of energy, wastewater, biodiversity, travel and transport, and each of those thematic areas are divided into 4 engagement steps. Tools for assessing where you're at, tools to identify what actions you might take, tools to support action planning, and resources to help you communicate what you're doing to your membership and community. And there's text and video case studies available there, and you can see some examples on the right hand side. So I'd very much recommend, if you haven't looked at the toolkit, to take a little bit of time to see what resources are there. We've been we've been in receipt of some very positive feedback about the toolkit, and the Department of Environment have used it as a model for the development of a toolkit for the broader sports sector, and they're using the Green Club programme as a model for the development of a Green Club programme for other sports organisations on the island. Mila, at this point I might hand over to you.
Thanks, Jimmy. So before moving on to kind of the envisaged county engagement model, we're just going to look back at some of the phase 2 actions and results, because they're obviously very important in informing what we do as we develop the programme, both within the central programme and at county level. And from the reports from the phase 2 clubs, we've kind of pulled some of the headline actions that I'm just going to go through briefly. This can be useful because very often when clubs, especially clubs who aren't engaged in the programme, but want to get involved, they don't know where to start. So it's very helpful for them to see examples of what other clubs are doing. But also in some of these, we have increased levels of club and county interaction. There's some actions here that really where the relationship with the local authorities has proved very valuable, or could prove increasingly valuable in the future. So of the actions undertaken by phase 2 clubs, 70% of those were energy actions. And very often clubs will identify and undertake energy actions themselves because there's money savings there, and there's some great grant schemes with the SEAI and through other grants that really make it incentivize taking action for energy. So those actions can be small ones like timers and sensors, to building installations and upgrades, which can be small or large, to the really big ticket items like LED floodlighting upgrades and solar PV installation. I think there was quite a number of solar PV installs funded under last year's Community Climate Action Fund, and some more kind of innovative ones like solar powered walkway lights. But some of the things that we'd be concerned about, and that's where some of the expert advice from local authorities can come in, is, for example, on lighting levels and the design of some of that lighting, especially where that might impact in local biodiversity. A few like simple tips and hints and advice can ensure that with some of these LED flood lighting upgrades, the impact of the spill and the impact on local wildlife and biodiversity can be minimised. And there may also be potential for other interactions. For example, in the decarbonisation zones, I know some clubs would be involved anyway, but not perhaps through the Green Club programme, and that could be something that's really exciting to do, to engage clubs more actively and make them really aware of being part of or being located within decarbonisation zones. In terms of waste was another really popular club action. In phase 2, 80% of clubs undertook waste actions because they're simple and they can have an immediate impact, whether that's just, having the right label bins, cutting down on single-use plastic, and increasingly gear swaps. And again, that's very easy for clubs to take club-led action, but clubs have received great support through local authorities, especially the EAOs there, even if it's just bin stickers or initial, putting the bins in the right places. Simple things like that can make a big difference. And that's something that we emphasize throughout. We will have clubs that will go off and do the ambitious projects, like the big energy upgrades, but it's really important for clubs starting out to know they can do something really small and stay at that if they need be, whether that's just getting their waste management right. Water conservation is under our water rubric, we have water conservation and water quality, and this is one where the local authority links can be really important, especially in terms of water quality and our relationship with Law Pro. And some of our more ambitious projects in this, we have clubs now developing integrated and community wetlands, which is really fantastic to see, and that's been largely through interaction with an existing projects from Law Pro. So that kind of local authority relationship has been really, really important there. And also overlapping into biodiversity, getting the correct advice, for example, eliminating herbicide use. It's something a lot of clubs are interested in. A lot of clubs aren't aware of the impact of their herbicide use, and having that expert advice from local authorities, and sometimes having somebody from the local authority drop down when things go wrong and kind of give the encouraging helping hand to correct practices has been really valuable to our clubs. One area that clubs are really interested in, and I suppose is more challenging, is especially when you were developing grounds, is that rainwater harvesting, because there's no kind of template there as there is for solar PV or anything. So if there's any local authorities here that would like to work with clubs on kind of more ambitious rainwater harvesting and water recycling, let us know. I kind of touched on biodiversity there. Again, like waste, it's something that we get a lot of club-led action, can be low cost, no cost, have a high impact. Again, we had 80% of our clubs doing biodiversity action, but the local authority input there can be crucial, especially with kind of, moving away from planting the wildflower seeds to more sustainable biodiversity practices like no-mow policies, and getting the correct advice there. And travel and transport had 50% of our clubs take travel and transport action, and in fact it's a growing area, and one where it's been essential for local authority collaboration, because we're looking not only within the walls of club grounds with the installation of bike racks and repair stations, and maybe the priorities in carpooling, but obviously into safe access towards safe access routes, and larger engineering solutions in the local area. And that's happening increasingly, actually, and it's really encouraging to see. And we're getting we're seeing more and more clubs encouraging active and sustainable travel to their clubs. In the next slide, we'll see some of the feedback from the clubs from phase 2, and this is kind of the positive headlines. For us, we were really delighted to see that almost all clubs were more engaged in sustainability afterwards, were increasingly taking sustainability concerns into account in club planning operations, and that they plan to remain engaged in sustainability actions for years to come. In terms of, I suppose, engaging with clubs that are coming on for the first time, there's some results there that really can break down the kind of the fear barrier or the kind of skepticism, which is not only did over 90% of clubs report that the Green Club involvement had a positive impact on club member health and well-being, but crucially for executives and committees and clubs, 88% reported that Green Club involvement had a positive impact on a club infrastructure management. And this kind of emphasis on the co-benefits of sustainability and climate action engagement through the Green Club programme will become increasingly important, because I suppose we've engaged with the leaders in the clubs, those who put up their hands, and now we're kind of moving towards engaging those who perhaps are not as aware, not as enthusiastic maybe as the others. So being able to show them from previous experiences that we have case studies, but also that the clubs have reported positive co-benefits that go beyond climate, that go directly to club operations and the running of games, is really important. And crucially, this one, that over 90% of clubs again took encouragement and ideas from the actions of other Gaelic Games clubs. That was really encouraging, but it was also anecdotally something we maybe didn't tap into as much as we could have at county level, because we were, and I saw Angela from Meath was online there when we were at the a Green Club event in Meath a couple of months ago. One of the clubs who was presenting there remarked upon that she didn't realise there were so many other clubs in Meath taking the same action. So she had seen the national programme but hadn't seen the local engagement, and sometimes getting those clubs together at local level can have a big effect because they all share the same concerns, they know each other personally, so getting those clubs together in whatever capacity can have a really positive effect. On the next slide, then, we see some of the challenges that clubs experience, and this is one I'm just going to reiterate again for the next few slides, is that they experience challenges in recruiting volunteers for Green Club actions. So that's why in developing these programs, we really want to make sure that we're not overburdening volunteers, and you know yourselves, and working with community groups, that people won't necessarily answer all calls or emails. People don't have the time to turn up to too many events. So it's really planning the engagement to get kind of maximum impact for the club, for the environment, without adding to the burden of volunteers who are already doing a huge amount for their club and often for the community in very many different capacities. And we also had over 50% clubs saying it was challenging to promote sustainability actions in their club. With the clubs that are now in phase 3 of the Green Club programme, we've been able to address that by giving those resources that Jimmy showed in that photo of Buffers Alley to them at the start, but just to bear in mind that some of those other clubs you will hopefully be engaging with at the county level won't have those resources and may find the same challenge in promoting sustainability actions in their club. So when you're maybe doing your own communications, if you have successful engagement with GAA clubs or other sports clubs, it's worth bearing that in mind. Can you produce something that the clubs themselves can use on their social media to raise awareness within their own club? Sometimes those messages land better when they come from outside and then can be shared within a club. So that's some of our learnings from phase 2. I know may have been familiar to some of you already, but were really important in informing what we've done in what we're doing in phase 3 and what we're trying to do in developing the county model, which we're going to concentrate from now on. So Jimmy's going to talk a little bit about like the ideal version, what we what we ideally like to achieve through the club and county engagement for Green Clubs.
Thanks very much, Mida. So straight into that, you could look at this as the ideal model, but I suppose what I'm projecting on screen there is a very basic model of what we're trying to support. A steering group, a working group, a relationship essentially between us and yourselves at local level that supports the GAA county level and the GAA clubs within the county to take action here outside of the formal GAA Green Club recognition programme, and in line with the resources that we've integrated into the Green Club toolkit. So setting up this structure, as you will be aware, in the counties that have and local authority jurisdictions where this is in place, has allowed us to expand to a much greater number of clubs within a county, and to provide opportunities for, like Mida said, that sharing of best practice locally, and obviously access to the expertise that you and your colleagues at local authority level have at your disposal, and also provides a forum where local representatives from our expert partners can come in and share their expertise also. And in that context, we've been working with the SEAI, and they've gone ahead and trained all their SEAI mentors in the basics of the Green Club programme, and in the opportunities that this type of a structure and this type of relationship can lead to. Some of you will have, through a structure like this, supported the establishment of a GAA sustainable energy community. Some of you will have been involved in the development of sustainability plans for county grounds or centres of excellence, as was the case over in McHale Park and Castlebar Mitchells in Mayo. Some of you may be asked in the future to support clubs developing strategic plans to ensure that sustainability and climate action are an integrated pillar. And I know many of you have hosted events in collaboration with the GAA for clubs in your jurisdictions and counties to increase their levels of awareness, or to educate them on opportunities that are out there. So we're not being prescriptive about what this looks like, but we are really trying to drive from a national strategic perspective the establishment of this relationship. Mida, do you want to speak to this slide?
Yeah, thanks, Jimmy. Well, as Jimmy mentioned at the outset, he's been working with county boards to develop the awareness and capacity. So, you know, we're getting the county board points of contact are really getting on board, and this has been something very new for GAA county boards. So and it will continue to need engagement from the GAA side, but it's very much a learning for us. So I don't want to pretend that we're putting any kind of you know, that we have a solution, what's going to work best for the engagement. We have developed a model that we think will work well, and we're really depending maybe on counties that already started in this and get engaged and feeding back to us on what's working well, what's not, where the challenges are, because this is something that will take a lot of work to refine and develop, but I think can be very impactful, not only within GAA clubs, but all the communities within GAA clubs are located. Again, the emphasis being that GAA clubs and county boards are run by volunteers, so they can be overwhelmed at different times of year. Very often it's the same volunteers doing everything, so we always just kind of caution that communication can be challenging sometimes, but also on the other hand, these are volunteers who are giving up their time, so please take this into account in your planning, communication, and expectations. Clubs or individuals may drop off, but that doesn't mean they're not going to come back again. They can just be going through periods of pressure within their work and volunteer life. So to make it easy,
I might just speak to this a little bit more, Mida, there. Sorry to interrupt. Just from my own engagement with counties there, just to give a couple of practical examples. So I contacted the Cork County Board, and I learned that they had already established a sustainability committee locally, organically, and that committee had been taking actions over a period of time now. So that's their own version, I guess, of the model we're talking about. It's been led by a volunteer, but that volunteer is a sustainability professional in a company in Cork. On the other hand, I've been in contact with some counties that haven't been able to identify somebody from their broader county board to take on the role. So the county secretary, who in most cases in a county now is a full-time employee and maybe referred to as the CEO, is going to take on the role of being the point of contact. That in those counties where that is the case might change over time as somebody is identified to take the relationship forward. So just to reinforce the point that Meda was making, it will vary from county to county. In a lot of cases, it will be a volunteer you're dealing with, and we're very conscious within the organisation of the increasing amount of work that we're asking volunteers to do, and just to bear that in mind. We are here centrally to help improve the relationship between the GAA county board level and yourself. So if there's difficulties, we can provide support or try to figure out if there's a better structure to support your objectives and to support the needs of the county as we move further along the journey of improving the GAA's response to climate change and the sustainability of our operation. So it's very different approaches that will work in different counties and different jurisdictions. Sorry, back to you, Meda.
Yeah, no, thanks, Jimmy. And just to say, if you know, maybe at first we say the kind of first step is get for the 2 points of contact, get in touch. But if there's if you don't already have the Green Club point of contact within your county, if you come through ourselves, through Jimmy, that can kind of be a way of ensuring that the support there and building that relationship, especially in counties maybe where it's something new to them. And as Jimmy kind of emphasised there, look, things are very different in all counties, and there's not going to be the exact same model in all counties. But we did try to develop a model, just a simple document that makes it easy for our county boards to understand what the vision is, what the options are, and how to engage. So we have these 7 steps for success, and this is a document, just to emphasise, we've developed for our own county board contacts. And the first step in that is to identify a Green Club lead, which is yourselves today, and we have the list of those contacts on the GAA Green Club toolkit. So if you look at that, if you understand yourself to be the Green Club contact and it's not your contact details on that list on the Green Club toolkit and learning.gaa.ie/Green Club, please, if you get in touch with Jamie or Thomas there, they can let us know and we can update that. Then we tell our clubs to not only identify it, but get in touch with that Green Club contact. And essentially, step 3 is probably the crucial one, to sit down and establish shared goals. So before ever going near clubs is to kind of sit down, see what the resources are. So as Jimmy said, that may be different in counties. If you have somebody who is as a point of contact who is a sustainability expert, who has perhaps the time to deal with this, there may be more ambitious goals. They may be looking at county-wide projects. Or if you have somebody who's very new to the role, it may be quite a modest start. And similarly, on local authority level, you may have priorities with decarbonisation zones, or depending on the county, particular concerns with water quality or biodiversity or with energy. So that may determine how the relationship evolves. And as Jimmy also mentioned, pointed out in the graphic he showed earlier of the engagement model, is engaging the other partners in the local authority. Like in some counties that we're kind of basing this model on that have worked very well. In Connacht, that has been kind of a working group that maybe meets formally twice a year. Again, you know, there's pressures on all sides. That may be an integration with existing structures, but ensuring that the Green Club point of contact is involved in there, and that the engagement is happening at that kind of higher level, the planning for the clubs before the engagement with clubs involved, just to know what resources and what our plans are there at county level. A crucial step for our county boards from our side is to embed this at a county board level, and this may be something to discuss at that step 3, the setting up of the meeting, because it's no good for a really enthusiastic volunteer to go off and develop a Green Club engagement in county level where that engagement depends entirely on that one individual. So ensuring that even if it is an individual leading it, that the county board, that there's kind of formal support from the county board, and that can be as simple as just reporting once a year at a meeting, including it in the end of year reports, or at the kind of where it works really well if you can have sustainability as an agenda item at county board level. So that's very much on the GA point of contact side, but it's something worth bringing up in the discussions. What is what's that relationship there, and where the county board as a whole obviously comes in is very important, is communicating with green clubs. They're the ones who have that, with the clubs within a county, they're the ones who have that contact list, but also understand times of year where clubs will be overwhelmed, times of year where it's good to start targeting clubs. So that can be very important. And it's only then, kind of having gone through all these, that we recommend this engagement with clubs, because when we engage with clubs at county level, it's kind of important that the clubs know what's next, and it's not just an information evening that there's no follow-up on. So if there's kind of been more discussions there, and identification of what the resources and time resources especially are available, both from the GA and the local authority point of contact, that can really make the club engagement very fruitful. So what a lot of counties have done is hold an information evening. Some may follow up with focused webinars with expert guidance, like we do in the national programme, or link in with some events or match days as well. If there's stuff happening, maybe sustainability promotions at match days, that can work quite well as well. And of course, the essential tool is not just to ensure that this is cyclical and sustained. We've included a review and renew step, so that we encourage the green point of contact after an agreed period of time, be that a month or a year, 18 months or 2 years, that they sit down and review it themselves to see what worked, hasn't, and then start that process again. So it'll be interesting to get your feedback on that at the end of this. And I suppose in summary, on the next slide, as Jimmy said, this kind of slide deck is something we hope to share for you, and that will hopefully be useful. So at the county level, I suppose it's that same initial meeting, setting shared goals, establishing those connections and communications with local and regional experts, ideally in maybe some kind of in a structure there, as Jimmy showed in the slide. And then drafting a plan for club engagement. Now, drafting that does not need to be a complex plan. It can be just looking, well, how are we going to touch in with clubs in the year ahead without, again, overburdening clubs, and within being realistic about our own resources, so that it's not just coming together once and everybody going their own way. And we have some kind of thoughts on that on the next slides. Again, this is something that has to work for both the GA counties and the local authorities. So feedback on any of this at the end will be very useful. What has been working really well at some of the events, and Jimmy did this at our own national event recently, was using a resource that's on the GA, on the toolkit again, this club and community mapping. Now, this can something that we recommend that green teams within clubs take themselves and take some time over, but it can be done in a kind of abbreviated fashion in person at some of these engagement events. And what we find at the engagement events, they're always really, really fantastic, and their energy is great. But what it can be slightly overwhelming, and I think there's no getting away from this, because we're bringing clubs together for the first time, they're getting a lot of information, which is the way it works best. But it can be slightly overwhelming for some clubs that are starting out at the beginning, and they leave maybe enthusiastic, but not really knowing what to do or where to start. And within this resource we have in the Green Club Toolkit, we have a club and community mapping. And there's 3 steps in that. One is looking within the club. There's a survey they can circulate with clubs that you could perhaps, within the club, that you could perhaps encourage them to circulate within their own club to see what the priorities are among their members. There's some tips for community mapping, for looking at links and expertise within the clubs. But there's also this kind of thematic mapping, which you see in very small on the bottom of the screen there, which is just 5 questions across the 5 thematic areas of energy, waste, water, biodiversity, and travel and transport. So this is something that could be done at a club engagement event. Kind of asks them to say what you're already doing in your club. Where could you kind of, by doing yes or no on these questions, they can help them identify maybe where they could start taking action. And even just psychologically, this can be really important for clubs, because it can kind of help them identify areas where they could possibly engage and give them kind of ideas to go away and take an action plan after. So again, not prescriptive, but it's something that can be useful if you want to bring a more interactive engagement element into any initial club information evenings or engagements. And then finally from me, just kind of another potential suggestion for continuing engagement for clubs that aren't in the Green Club programme, but are interested in taking sustainability action and turn up maybe for these initial information evenings, is the GAA for the last number of years has been engaged in an Erasmus Plus sporting project with other sporting bodies across Europe, including FA Wales, the Danish FA, and FC Porto. And as part of that, we were asked to adapt some of our learnings from community engagement on climate and sustainability through the Green Club programme to a multi-sport context. And that was a really interesting project for us to do, because we were working with clubs, with organisations, especially the Danish FA and the Welsh FA Wales, that didn't own their own clubs and grounds. So we just couldn't give them our own toolkit, which is very much focused on clubs that own their own facilities. So what we had to do that is take a step back and look what we were doing in the formal Green Club programme that's structured of milestones Jimmy said at the beginning, and saying, well, how could we adapt that to make it easy for clubs to take club-led action where they're not involved in a central programme? And so something that's simple but gives them a bit of structure. So we've come up with this kind of 5-step programme that really uses what we already have, but makes it maybe hopefully more clear for clubs to take action, which is these 5 steps of, first of all, establishing a green team, and even just providing a simple template, which we have for writing your names down in that, the club and community mapping resource, which we already saw, the setting of green goals, and we have action plans within the Green Club toolkit, then adopting a Green Club commitment, such as a charter, and then conducting an end of year review and providing there's a simple forms template for clubs like that. So we've developed this for our partners through this European project, and in fact the Welsh FA have adapted it themselves, really taken it to heart, and developed their Together Greener club programme where they're using this. And we're considering maybe using this now for clubs that aren't in the Green Club programme, like the clubs you'll be working with in your county. So it will be, before we put it up as part of our toolkit, it might be interesting, I know it's kind of, to hear if you think, and especially from those counties that have been involved with clubs, if this would be something that would be useful to provide to clubs within your county that aren't in the structured programme, or if this is just another layer of admin for them. Again, these are very simple resources. That's it. Oh no, tips and things. This is very important. Yes. So summary, I suppose, when you're coming together with the Green Club, with the county board point of contact, there's some feedback we've got from clubs that might be useful for you, which is supporting clubs of all means and sizes. So this is especially true within some counties. In some counties, the sustainable energy communities work very well, and it's a good way of getting clubs involved. But if there are smaller clubs that have just a single clubhouse, no floodlights, they may not see a huge role for themselves in there. So just making it, emphasising that there are small actions, like every club can do something in biodiversity and waste and still be as meaningfully engaged within the GA value system as some of those doing those larger projects. So it's really important to be catering for the big and small clubs. Making it easy for clubs to engage, because clubs can be overwhelmed. So again, if there's anything small that clubs can start out, whether sharing the community and club mapping resource, whether there's already existing initiatives that they can link in with, if already have tidy towns or projects locally, or getting them involved in tree planting. The GAA issues trees every year to clubs, and that could be just a simple way of getting clubs started. Jimmy mentioned the Sustainable Energy Communities model, and yes, we're very grateful to the SEAI for the work they've done in kind of developing a specific approach to that for GA clubs and for counties. But where there is an SEC, I suppose that's a step. Is there a GA SEC being set up in your county with an SEAI mentor, and how much can you integrate what you're doing with that, so clubs aren't being called upon twice? And that the energy can be integrated with all of the others, so clubs aren't answering to too many calls. And there's also can be great opportunities, collaboration not only with clubs but at county levels, in the upgrading of county facilities. That can be something that's very can obviously have a benefit for county boards, and really bring the county boards on board if they can see the benefits. but also it can be, if they're flagships within a county, it can kind of make sustainability and climate action visible. And similarly for sustainability planning for larger matches and events, I think Cavan started out with I think it's Cavan started out with a kind of a waste initiative, that they did a lot of communications around at a championship match in Breffni Park, and that made sustainability really invisible. It also had a community engagement element. So there's, and I know in McHale Park in Mayo, there's been a huge amount done around the sustainability planning for larger matches and events, which can really have an impact not only on county board level, but on a sustainability culture within a county at GAA level. That's all from me. And so Jimmy, I'll give you the focal score, the final word there.
Thanks, Mita. So again, I suppose there's 3 strands is how we're trying to frame what we're doing in this area now. There's the toolkit, it's available to everybody. And then there's the clubs that are part of our formal programme at national level. And then there's the capacity to reach many more clubs through this relationship with yourselves, local authority, with GAA County Board. And I think it might be helpful just to think about those 3 stands and the toolkit being available to everybody, but the potential at local level, this decentralised approach with your help that can really expand the impact of the GAA's sustainability efforts over the next year or two, and build to a new memorandum of understanding, which we've agreed to pursue with our colleagues in the Climate Action Regional Offices to support the programme into the future. So I think it's an exciting time for us. We're also going ahead at national level here, developing a sustainability strategy. The first meeting of the team to steer the development of that strategy is next week, and we're hoping to complete that exercise over the next 6 months, and it'll focus on not only the club, which the Green Club programme has been the focus of, but supporting our county units, supporting the relationship with yourselves, and developing policies for the association at large around things like pitch maintenance, facilities development, infrastructure, procurement, and other areas. So while we're 5 years into this, we feel that we're just really now, I suppose, getting in place the structures across the organisation to really bring this forward. Back to you, Jamie.
That's brilliant. Thanks a million there, Jimmy and Mida, for the updates on phase 3. I suppose one of the things that jumped out to me was the provincial meetups, and how that's going to really, I suppose, help aid clubs to communicate and collaborate with each other at a local and regional level. So that's really exciting to see. So what we're going to do now is just move on to the Q&A aspect of the webinar. So just to remind you that this part of the webinar is still recorded. So if anybody has any questions that they want recorded, they can send them into the chat function. I've seen there's a few questions that have come in there. Also, if you want to put your hand up, and we'll get to your question in due course. Also, as I said, if you want to hold on and wait until the recording ends, we'll be ending the recording in a few minutes, and you can ask any questions then. So what I'm going to do now is just hand you over to my colleague Tom, and he's going to go through any of the questions that have come in, and we'll continue the discussion then. So are you all right to take over there, Tom?
I am, Jamie. Thanks a million. So the first question there from Fergal, you kind of covered this, Jimmy, about when can we have access to the list of what clubs have participated. So is there a time frame of when that list will be?
We have the list consolidated now, so I'll be sharing it individually with each of the local authority points of contact this afternoon, hopefully. That list, just for clarification, will identify who is involved at phase 1, at phase 2, at phase 3, and give an indication of their level of engagement. From that, you should be able to identify, if a club is really engaged or if a club had maybe made an initial contact to us, may have gotten some way along the journey, but maybe didn't complete any of the phases. To answer the second part of Fergal's question there, so they're the clubs that have been involved in the formal recognition programme. The toolkit is available to all clubs. And then is there any scope now for further expansion? It is, but it's through the relationship that you as a local authority point of contact will have with the GAA county board point of contact. And that should open up the programme generally to a much broader level of clubs. We won't be taking any new clubs into phase 3 now. We have our set of clubs in phase 3. They will go on this journey for 18 months. Some of them will complete it, some of them may not. And then we'll probably open a phase 4 in late 2026. So there's kind of 3 strands, as I say, to it. There's the toolkit, there's the formal recognition programme, and then there's the broader expanse of clubs that we can reach through the relationship between yourselves and the GAA point of contact. So I hope that's kind of clear.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Thank you.
The second is from Helen. Just wondering if there's any plans to engage on a national basis with the existing networks of tidy town groups and green schools to promote green sport clubs.
Well, I suppose the development of relationships with the likes of tidy towns and green schools is something that's kind of always on our agenda. We don't have any specific plans, but would take on board the suggestion. We have met with green schools previously. We do have a transition year program called Future Leaders that is being heavily supported by the teacher training support service called IDGA. One of the modules on that transition year program is a sustainability module. The content in that module was developed by some of your environmental awareness officers a couple of years ago. And we understand that all post-primary schools will, over the next couple of years, have to provide a transition year. And we're hoping to increase the number of schools that are delivering the GAA Future Leaders programme from a current level of 320 to up into the 400s and 500s. So some of them will be doing a sustainability module, and our idea was that for a GAA oriented school, it's kind of an easier into the green area than maybe the requirements of the Green Schools programme formally are. But I suppose the general answer to that, because it's about partnerships and collaborations, we're always trying to make those at national level, and we'll be considering which ones are the most important for us as we develop our national strategy.
And also, just to add to that, Jimmy, again, some of these are, because I suppose the separate identities are important as well, because they, people respond to different things. But being the GAA, a lot of what is really important is that the national level is very important for those collaborations, but at local level, and we actively, through that club and community mapping resource, encourage clubs to identify local groups they can partner with, and we specifically name both tidy towns and green schools there. So we're doing that a lot at local level, and often what happens at grassroots feeds up as well. But we very much encourage that kind of partnership at local level through the Green Clubs programme.
Okay, and just part of the question there, what is the role of the county board contact?
Yeah, so the role of the county board contact, we've defined quite simply. It's to support the integration of appropriate climate action and sustainability at county level, and that I suppose predominantly means in the maintenance and development of county facilities and grounds. And a lot of counties have high on their agenda, the upgrade of their stadia or the development of centres of excellence, and we want to ensure that they're supported to do that in the most sustainable way. So that's one part of the role, and the other part of the role is as a conduit into the network of Gaelic Games clubs across the county, and supporting those clubs to access the best information and the right people to take actions themselves. So it's kind of twofold. I think Pádraig is probably, if you wanted to come in on that, Pádraig, a very good example of somebody who, you know, while not taking on that role for a county, is very aware of the benefits of having somebody at GAA County Board level that can support the development and maintenance of facilities for the county, but also support the network of clubs to take action. Do you want to make a comment on that, Pádraig?
Absolutely, Jimmy, and I'm up here in Louth, and I've seen that at Louth County Board level. So they've taken on the double role of obviously looking after their own facilities and doing a massive investment in Darver and their centre of excellence. It was really impressive. It's going to be an exemplar site, and obviously their stadium, which has just been announced as a new stadium, that'll obviously be state of the art. Want to start building that in the coming weeks. But then they have also, and this gentleman at county board level is Colin Holmes, and Colin then in turn and the county board with the local authorities have mobilised the clubs in Louth to try and get behind all things sustainable, and they're trying to lead it out at a county board level and give the leadership and show the leadership to the clubs, and probably be another contact on a phone or an email if a club's run into problems. So certainly Louth have encompassed the whole vision that we would love to see for county boards on sustainability and on the Green Club.
Okay.
All right.
Just Denise, there is a question. Who is responsible for identifying the County Green Club lead?
That's a very good question. Our strategy in terms of identifying a county green club lead is to ask a county to identify somebody for us. And you know, as we spoke to in the slide deck, in some cases, the person who is the county secretary, usually in these times a full-time employee, they may say, look, I'm going to take on that role for the time being. But in most of the counties, it's the voluntary county safety and facilities officer who's taken on the role. In some counties, it's the person we call the county planning and training officer, and in some counties it's somebody else. So we don't generally, with these type of programs, direct counties to take action. It's, you know, it's the approach is to highlight the benefits of having somebody in the role, and to support the county to identify the right person, and then to go about trying to train that person, for want of a better word, to take the action and to liaise with the county. So I'm not sure if that answers Denise's question.
Okay, thanks, Jimmy. Okay, so we have two more questions, but we have a few people with their hands raised. So Angela, if you want to turn your mic on there.
Hi everyone, good morning. I just want to go back to kind of what Mida was saying and might answer the question there that Denise had as well. Here in Meath, the county board, when I was doing the event back in January, it took a while to get the county board on for that event, but we got them here, had a great turnout for the event, which led to a sustainability officer being appointed in Meath County Board through a volunteer that was there on the night who had an interest in it and approached them for the position. So since then, I've had a meeting with them and the chairperson and secretary of the county board, and it seems they have the plans to develop at a county level and feed that in through the GAA clubs as well. And because of the turnout we had at that in-person event as well, we got a lot more interest in the green clubs. And I think, again, we're one of the highest ones, I'll know by the list later on, but the highest participants of green clubs in the county again. So it's great to see that going forward. And it's great that, I think, if you're only starting out with this, having an in-person meeting, it just gets the clubs together in a different environment that's not a county board level, and shows the interaction between everybody and gets them all involved, and they can talk to each other about different projects as well. So that's the way it worked with us. I was just checking then, Jimmy, when the list is shared with us this afternoon, we're okay to go ahead and share that on social media and for who was.
Yeah, there's no problem sharing the list of who's involved in the Green Club program. I suppose what I would say, Angela, is that you know, we'll indicate the level of engagement. So I would probably at this point limit that communication to the clubs that are on the formal Green Club Phase 3 list.
Yeah.
So the list will be divided up into clubs that were in Phase 1. And whether they were fully engaged, clubs that were in Phase 2, and whether they were fully engaged as in they got to Green Club status, and clubs that were in Phase 3. There will be some clubs that were in Phase 1 and Phase 2 that are also in Phase 3, but there will be many clubs in Phase 1 and Phase 2 who aren't formally in Phase 3. So it's just to understand that differentiation. Again, they're the clubs that have been engaged in the formal recognition programme with us. They may not include clubs, and they definitely won't in your case, Angela, where you've held that event at county level, and you might have many clubs in Meath now involved in taking green actions. This list will not include all of those, you know.
Yeah, I understand that, and I do think from the event as well, there was one club I had presenting who had gotten funding through the Community Climate Action Fund, who actually weren't aware of the green clubs. But everything they were doing at club level was all about sustainability and green clubs, and it was disappointing to see that they didn't know about it, but I think they've been successful this time. So those little bit of communications are encouraging to see.
Yeah, they are, and look, that's just it's very difficult for us to get awareness of programs like the Green Club program or the program it's modelled on, the Healthy Club program, out to all of our clubs. That might sound hard to understand, but our communications channels are so flooded with communications around games and matches and coach education things. There are still clubs out there that do not know about the Healthy Club program or the Green Club program. And it's always a challenge for us to get that message out. Now that we have a point of contact in every county board and we have this relationship with yourselves, hopefully there won't be too many more left in a couple of years that don't know about the Green Club program. I think that would be a massive achievement. Just as an aside, the Healthy Club program is 10 years old and is now at the 600 club mark, thereabouts. The Green Club program is effectively in the second. This Phase 3 is really the second phase of it as a national program. Phase 1 was about developing the toolkit, and we're already up at the 400 club mark. So by comparison, it's expanding and accelerating at a much greater level. But also, in contrast to the Healthy Club program, this relationship that we have with yourselves, we don't have something similar within the Healthy Club program, and this relationship with yourselves will really help us expand this program at an accelerated pace. So that's a very positive statement about our relationship.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thanks, Billion.
Gary, do you want to jump in there?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Jimmy, I completely agree with what you've said about the county liaison officers. I suppose there is funding available from the local authorities through the Community Climate Action Fund for these types of works, and there are biodiversity officers available within the local authorities that can go out to clubs and work with them. And we've been kind of trying to find a list or kind of work with the clubs within the county to see could we progress this to other clubs. And it's great that there's somebody now that's been appointed from the county board. But just one issue I will say is generally when we go to clubs, the first thing clubs will say is, this is great, but how much is it going to cost us? So we just need to make clubs aware that whatever actions they're going to take, they may be funded 100%, or they may have to find some funding themselves within the club. And I think each county delegate or each county liaison officer should probably sit down with the county council and the clubs that are already in the programme and have a meeting and kind of have an exemplar programme where the better clubs or clubs have done a lot of the good work and could hold an open day and show the other clubs the work they've actually done within the club and kind of encourage it that way. And I suppose I'm coming at this from my former job was the environmental awareness officer, and we would have drafted helped draft, I suppose, the Green Clubs programme through the Green Schools programme. And we would have worked with the EPA, with clubs through the local authorities on the likes of energy conservation, water conservation, recycling and stuff like that. So we definitely be very, very clear on what needs to happen. And I just say thanks again for organising the county representatives, because I think that's the link that we were missing between the county councils and the clubs and kind of getting this off the ground and really driving it. So thanks for that.
You know, and I appreciate that feedback. And I think your idea there about when you speak to the county point of contact about organising an event and showcasing the work done by the clubs that have been involved in the programme already. That's when we're trying to promote a programme like this to our broader club network, they need to see that other clubs have done it. Have done it successfully, that it hasn't cost them much money, or how do you get the funding? They need to see case studies like that. They need to be presented with a context that's similar to themselves. And some clubs are small and can only take small steps, and there's some bigger clubs in urban situations that have a lot greater capacity. So that was on one of the slides me to present, just to be aware of that. And it's good to showcase examples of small clubs and middle-sized clubs and big clubs that have done different things, and usually then that'll be something to inspire clubs of similar sizes to take action. So it's a good approach.
Thanks, Jimmy. Jeanette, I'm going to let you jump in there. I think you took your hand down by mistake.
I think I ended up waving there, Thomas. Howie, Jimmy, look, thanks for the presentations. I have to say the toolkit is excellent. I've been promoting it not just across GAA clubs, but all clubs in general, to use it as a model of best practice. So whether you're a soccer club or a tennis club or it sets out a really good structure on looking at sustainability going forward. The one thing I was just wondering, and Gary touched on it briefly, and it's my experience, the first thing the lads will always ask me is, Jesus, exactly that, how much is it going to cost me? And then of course we have a range of actions that, like your swap kits and all of that kind of stuff, your Lomo, that are free. But I'm just wondering, in terms of funding, I know that the GAA club offer, say, loans to clubs, right? Would there be some sort of a kind of a possibility maybe for reduced or extra markings or extra considerations if clubs that are actively involved in the green clubs put in applications for sustainable works to progress their sustainability actions? It might, first of all, encourage action, and then also it might encourage further participation in the Green Clubs programme. Just an observation, but thanks for this morning, it was great.
Yeah, no, that's something that's on our agenda, Jeanette, and we're one of our internal key stakeholders in the development of a sustainability strategy will be our National Infrastructure Committee, and they oversee the distribution of GAA monies to counties and clubs for infrastructure projects. And we've a clear vision to ensure that the conditions of those loans and grants include proper consideration of sustainability issues, and we'll be looking at the criteria. So that's definitely something on our agenda. Yeah, and I think it's definitely a way to progress this.
Okay, Denise.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Jimmy and Angela, for answering the question. I suppose here in Galway County, I have met with the county board on 3 different occasions, and unfortunately the chairperson didn't attend the meetings, but the secretary and treasurers and PRO officer did. They just, I suppose, said they don't have the time or the resources to dedicate anyone to be the point of contact or the county green club lead, and it's a pity really, because with the size of Galway, it's really hard with the number of clubs for me at the county council level and the green clubs point of contact to be working from the bottom up. Obviously the Climate Action Fund has helped, and we've funded a lot of clubs to do climate actions. But we really need more support from the county level down, and it's worked well maybe in other counties, but not in Galway, unfortunately, so far. We actually, 2 years ago, we brought them and we did a walk around with all the experts in the council, the biodiversity officer, the climate action officer, the environmental awareness officer. We did a walk around one of the stadiums here to inform them what they could do in regards to climate actions to make the stadium itself and the club more green. But unfortunately nothing came about that. And I think they need to show examples in regards to their own stadiums of what can be done in regards to climate action. So when you have the fans coming to matches, they can see for themselves the actions such as a water refill station or the solar panels or the segregation of waste bins and so on. I think it's key that we're sending a message out. If the likes of Pierce Stadium that holds 26,000 people, if they had at least some green actions shown and people can see them when they attend the matches, I think that's a great education in itself and a learning for any club that attend the matches and attend the stadium. So I feel we in the West, I think, just need more support at the county board level to get the message out there. And I'm aware that they're all volunteers at the county board level and they're already pulled on all sides. But we still need to sell the message and that making a club green and a stadium green is important and it should be high up on their agenda. So we've done the meetings. We feel nothing really has come out of it. Now I have been in contact with MEDA and we're going to organise our own meeting or our own information night with green clubs in one part of the county and get the experts there and do stands and do a walkabout. But I feel we still need every county board to have either a sustainability officer or green clubs officer, and it should be as standard as having a treasurer or a PRO officer or a secretary. And I know some county boards have done that, but I still feel it's a struggle here in Galway. So we appreciate your support, but
yeah, no, and I know you've been liaising with me, dear Denise, and we're conscious of, we're going to try our level best to try and resolve it, whether it be by identifying somebody from outside the formal county board structure that has been active, let's say, in one of the green clubs in Galway that maybe can move up a level and take on a coordinating role for the county board there if that's what required. I suppose the general point that you're making, that despite your great efforts and the running of initiatives, that there hasn't been traction, for want of a better word, is something that I suppose is going to happen at different times in different counties. We we're a volunteer-led organisation, and the turnover, even if we had a sustainability officer, green club officer, that person might fulfil the role for 3 years, and next thing you'll find that they'll be gone and there'll be a new person in, and it might feel like a backward step. And it's just something, I suppose, that's important to make you all aware of. But that's something that we at Central Council level, across the range of roles that exist within our county boards, have to contend with on a cyclical basis. Continual volunteer support, continual education programs, the development of toolkits, and trying to simplify how people go about things when they might feel like they don't know how to take the next step. But if anybody like yourself, Denise, is having an issue with the identified point of contact or feeling that they're stuck, this is the time now where we're trying to resolve those issues, and we'll work specifically with you, Denise, to try to resolve it there. We did have the lucky context of having Kurt Reinhardt in the Connacht Provincial Council as the Safety and Facilities Manager, and Kurt then was able to support the identification of a contact in the Connacht counties and helping to set up the relationships with the local authorities. Kurt has moved on now, and that role hasn't been replaced. And we didn't have a similar role in Munster or in Connacht or in Ulster prior to this year. Do we have somebody in Ulster now? So it's something that we're trying to address here at national level, potentially employing a regional support coordinator for programs that are run from the community and health department, which I'm a member of. So to support counties run the healthy club program, support counties run the green club program, to try and address that deficit where it exists, Denise, because sometimes the county board does need a lot of hand-holding to get to a point where they're kind of self-sufficient. Look, I'll say is we're trying to address it at a number of different levels, through the strategy, through maybe the provision of a resource from national level here that works regionally, and through direct engagement with the county board. I don't know if Mead or Pádraig want to address that point further. No, okay. I'm conscious there before we move on, Thomas, and as well as time. Helen had a question there about mywaste.ie. Yeah, absolutely. In order to encourage use of that toolkit, our toolkit is.
Well, I don't know what you mean. Well, it was saying that the My Waste Sports Toolkit actually emerged from the Green Club. It was the same person who developed them. So yeah, obviously it's great to promote because yeah, and anything else like that makes it easier for clubs.
Okay, Karen, do you have a question there? If you want.
No, just a comment really about, because I know with the Green Schools programme that you get change in green school coordinators, different teachers coming on board every couple of years. But I mean, that's the role as environmental awareness officer is to support those transitions. But ultimately, if a club or a school are committed, if the board are committed, if the chairperson is committed, if that commitment is made, it does continue. So I think it's really important that each county board should ideally make a commitment to sustainability. So I think even a statement or something on a web page or a social media post to declare that commitment would be a nice step, a good step to make also.
Yeah, and I suppose on that, as Jimmy mentioned, it's something we saw along the clubs, and it's a kind of a period, but it improves as there's a momentum. The situation will be very different in terms of awareness, even let alone engagement across county boards. But as Jimmy mentioned, we're starting on the strategic process now, which as the Green Club programme to date has really been a bottom-up programme with the clubs, and we're starting that top-down engagement from the top down, which will be engaging more of these higher levels in whatever form that comes out of. That will come out of the strategic process and will obviously be led by internal actors within GAA as well. But I think we won't, like, it's not going to happen as a blanket overnight. But yeah, we're moving towards an increasing awareness, and then I think once that comes, the engagement will come afterwards, and that will be helped by the leadership through the strategic process as well.
Sorry, I'm back there. I don't know what my internet, but anyway, you're plowing on.
Just two questions left there before we stop the recording. From Maria, what support is going to be given to the local authorities, climate action and environmental awareness officer in getting this off the ground? Here in Kilkenny, we only have one club officially set up, so our county is really only in the early stages.
So I suppose the structural support from our side is through the identification of that county board point of contact, Maria. And to ensure that there's somebody there that you can liaise with to get your messages out to the clubs in Kilkenny. If that's not working as effectively as we hope it can, like in Denise's case, we'll intervene to try and support communication into the GAA network in Kilkenny. And I suppose they would be the two things I'd point to.
And just to add as well that, it remains to be seen how engaged clubs will be in phase 3, but we have had, I think it's 6 new clubs engage in phase 3, as well as there was 2 clubs that didn't quite make it over the line in phase 2. So even, if that's another starting point, even with the kind of engagement and the building of the awareness within the county, even if it's through that smaller number of clubs, and it means building it at a maybe a slower pace within Kilkenny, there will be more clubs engaged within the formal programme who will be getting the supports nationally. So hopefully that will help with raising awareness through the county as a whole.
Thanks, Meada. And the final question there from Helen. I understand that funding had been provided by the GAA for the initial phase of the programme. Are there plans for the GAA to provide any funding for the new phase?
Yeah, so we've been lucky enough to be given a grant by the Department of the Environment that we used as seed funding for clubs in phase 2. So clubs who were in the formal programme could apply to access some of that funding. It's not a massive amount of funding, but it means that you can start a project maybe without going back to the club executive looking to source funds that might have been earmarked for something else that the club was doing. So I think in phase 2 it was like somewhere between 500 and €1,000. We have the resources through the Department of the Environment to do that again for phase 3. And again, it'll be something in that region. We'll probably limit it to new clubs. So clubs that are new to the Green Club programme and have only joined in phase 3 to help them get off the ground. But it is a very limited pot of funding. Like Jeanette proposed earlier, like the GAA, I think the figure that we distribute to clubs and counties from our revenue is 85%. So we do distribute a vast amount of money. I think the strategy going forward is probably going to be looking at making sure that money is distributed where proper commitments are made to doing things in a sustainable manner, as opposed to having standalone funds.
Thanks, Jimmy. I think, Jamie, I'm going to stop the recording now. Is that okay?
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. Some really, really good questions there. So as Tom said, he's going to stop the recording now. Just